Good morning and happy Monday to you all. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is now 9:01 a.m. and you are listening to and watching Good Morning, Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. It's Monday, and we have a brand new guest on the show. This morning, we are proud to have Mr. Lou Santoyo on the show, candidate for Kane County Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
How you feeling?
I feel good. Thank you for having me, Curtis.
Absolutely. Good to see you. And good to see you again. We first met each other at the Aurora Puerto Rican Cultural Council's lockup fundraiser.
Yeah.
Pretty cool to be.
It was a very fun and interesting.
It was.
Unlike anything I've experienced before.
In jail with a guy running for sheriff. How about it?
and the typical scenario, my wife comes and bails me out.
Yeah, yep. So that was good, and that was really a good reflection on the community. They had a diverse amount of people out there, so shout out to the Puerto Rican Cultural Council.
Yeah.
Before we get started with today's interview, how was your weekend, and how are you feeling this morning?
Oh, I feel good. Every day's a blessing, you know. You wake up and you're like, yeah, I made it to another day. So it's about gratitude. I feel great. I feel grateful today more than anything else for opportunities, for life, for meeting new people, for having an opportunity to make a difference. You know, there's so many things that are happening right now that are exciting.
Awesome.
And I had a great weekend. It was hot.
It was.
We got our pool going. We had a new pool liner put in.
Okay.
Oh, what a pain.
But what a reward!
But it was it was worth it. So yes, we had a we had a good weekend.
Good. Yeah. So you're running for Kane County Sheriff.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about the platform, your goals, and your visions.
Yes.
But to start off with, what makes you feel that you are the candidate for that role at this moment?
Yeah, that's the question of the hour. Mm-hmm. I believe wholeheartedly that I am the candidate because I have the purpose, the mission, the knowledge, the experience. Did I mention experience? Yes. The education, and this is the moment. This is the moment for it. All those things are pieces of a puzzle of my life that have come together at this point in my life, and it is a mission more than anything else.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
You were born and raised on west side Chicago, Pilsen, right?
Yes, I was born in Mexico.
That's right.
My parents brought me. My mom wanted to have us in Mexico. My parents are immigrants. They came here. My father came to California. My grandfather lived in California. They immigrated there from Mexico, and then my father ended up in Illinois. Here we are. Right. But my mom wanted to have us in Mexico for some reason. And there's six of us. So the first three, she went down there and had us and brought us back. So, you know, we grew up on 18th Street, Pilsen. Shout out to Pilsen. So, yeah.
Okay. The Chicago experience is a lot different than the Aurora Kane County experience. So, you know, Cook County versus Kane County. What kind of similarities are there, you know, that you feel that your background there is transferable here? You know, what kind of, you know, safety is paramount, sure, but what else?
Well, by default, Cook County, you're looking at 5 million plus. Kane County, you're looking at 500,000 plus,
right,
give or take. But the people are people. Our needs are the same. Our desires are the same. The need to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, to be respected, to be taken care of and protected. They're all the same needs. The demographics are very similar. Right. You know, we got the Latinos out here. You know, we have the African American communities out here, and many others. Not as you know, saturated as it is in Cook County and Chicago. Chicago's like the melting pot of the world. You know what I mean? You talk about, like, you want food, go to Chicago. You want to taste some crazy food from some weird part of the world, you'll find it in Chicago.
Right.
So you know, there's a lot in common. But at the end of the day, we are all the same people with the same needs, with the same, you know, desires, if you will.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, you were a police officer or deputy. Is that correct?
Well, yes. In Cook County, it's a little different.
Okay.
We were police officers.
That's where your career in law enforcement started.
Yes, it started. I started at the Cook County Department of Corrections back in 1995. Yeah. I worked the jail in Cook County. Okay. And then I had a brief stint in the courts in Cook County.
Okay.
And then I had the fortunate blessing to get promoted to the Cook County Sheriff's Police.
Okay.
Which was when I got the phone call that I made the police department, I thought I won the lottery, and I probably did. It was the career of a lifetime. Kids play cops and robbers, and we watch these shows, and I can honestly say that I have lived that experience.
Was it like TV?
And it's better than TV. and it was such a wonderful, wonderful run. I would do it all over again.
Okay.
Maybe.
Now, the Cook County Sheriff's Police.
Yes.
How is that different from the police department? And is that law enforcement body only in the court system within Cook County?
No. So the Cook County Sheriff's Police, it's the same. We have the same responsibilities as the local police.
Okay.
It's all about jurisdiction.
Okay.
The local police, like, for example, Chicago, they have their own police department. Aurora, you guys have a great police department. You guys handle your own business here. And the sheriff's responsibility, police-wise, is to provide the police services in the unincorporated areas of the county.
Okay.
Cook County, Kane County, same thing. So,
got it.
Yeah, it's just a different department. But the sheriff's got a little bit more. The sheriff's in charge of responsible for the jails and for the courts as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think was the most in your experience in that part of law enforcement in that different county? What do you think was the most formative experience that you had during that time?
I spent most of my career as a detective, and the most formative part of that, surprisingly or ironically, if you will, it was not the actual work. It was connecting with different people of different walks of life.
What do you mean?
Well, Cook County, we had our communities. On the north side of Cook County, you have your Indian communities, you have your Russian communities, you Mongolian communities. I mean, you talk about people from all over the world, and that's just on the north area.
Right.
And when you work with these people, the Chinese communities, for example. When I worked the streets way years ago, I'd go to this little Chinese restaurant. And I got to know the family so well that ran that restaurant, and they loved me there. I'd come in and just say hello, talk to them. And at some point, they're like, no, you don't order from our menu here. Come on back here. They take me to the back to their little kitchen where they sat, and they ate their food.
Right.
I was like, this is not on your menu? Right. And I made connections like that. That's an example of the connections I made. So what impacted me the most was being able to connect with people of different walks of life, different beliefs, just way different than what I ever knew.
Right.
And to understand how they see the world. And by understanding how they see the world, made me a better police officer, because now I know how to deal with them through their lens, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it does. What does the average everyday person get wrong about law enforcement?
Get wrong?
Yeah.
The average everyday person will not understand the stress that this job entails. And the stress is not, I've looked into that, and it's not necessarily about seeing or experiencing crime every day. You have a radio on there, You ever have a friend who's like just negative all the time? How does that make you feel?
Exactly.
Right?
I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got a radio here, and Cook County, the second largest in the country, by the way.
Right.
You're there. Maybe your day wasn't that busy, but you're hearing everything going on, and that stresses you out because it's your colleagues, and every day you're hearing nothing good comes out of that radio.
Yeah.
So what people don't understand is that element. That's one little element that people don't understand is that will really, really depress you sometimes stress you out. You come home and your family's like, what's going on? Did you have a busy day? No. Why are you so stressed? And sometimes you're like, why am I stressed? And
domestic violence, shots fired, armed
absolutely.
robbery, person down, car crash.
And yeah. So those are the little things that people really don't know. And sometimes we don't even notice it. It takes some reflection, like, why am I feeling this way? There it is.
Right.
So that's an example of something that people might not know about our line of work.
9:09 is the time if you're just joining us. Good morning to you all. You're watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. And we're here with Lou Santoyo, candidate for Kane County Sheriff. So Kane County is large, a lot of different communities.
Yes.
You're currently Elburn trustee.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, I love it.
Let's talk about that. What's that like being a trustee, and what exactly does a trustee do?
Well, basically, as a trustee, we are the board that makes the decisions on all the things that are happening in Elburn. Okay. We manage the budget. We make sure that our streets are taken care of. You know, like your public works out here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We make sure that our streets are salted. We make sure that the residents, that the parks are taken care of. You know, that the bills are paid.
Right.
And it's such a great learning experience for me, and it's so much fun because I feel, you know, I have 3 boys that in Elburn. You know, I want to know what's going on.
Right.
And if I can have a say so to have a positive impact, that's what I'm going to do, and that's why I ran for village board.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What was that like? What was that process like?
Well, you run like everywhere else. You get on the ballot and you look for your votes. Of course, Elburn, you know, it's a small village and it's not as intense as this is going to be.
I bet.
So you know, it's at a very much smaller scale, but it's the same process, you know. And I am an elected official, and you know, so.
Right.
I'm no stranger to this process. I'm learning a lot as I go along now because this is much bigger.
Right.
But yeah, it's a great thing.
So I want to read now. Your website is santoyoforsheriff.com.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone interested to go check out the website. We're going to talk about the key points on the website. Restoring trust in law enforcement. Lou will lead with transparency and integrity, building community trust by ensuring deputies are held to the highest standards that every resident feels that every resident feels seen, heard, and respected. So restoring that trust when it comes to, you know, us here in Kane County, what's step 1 with that?
Step 1 is understanding your demographics. Okay. We in police training, occasionally you'll get a training class that may be 8 hours and something to the effect of cultural awareness. Mm-hmm. Well, let's look at the word awareness. Awareness means I know something exists, right? 8 hours is not going to give me enough to go out there and understand people. I just mentioned how my work as a detective and the demographics and the cultures impacted me. Mm-hmm. We need to have that type of attitude here, meaning that, for example, I learned this from the Chinese family. In the Asian cultures, not making eye contact can be a sign of respect, mm-hmm. right? You're talking to me and I look down. Well, on the street, if you're talking to maybe, for example, someone of Asian descent, and they look down, hey, look at me when I'm talking to you. You know, there's a misunderstanding there. There is a wall of misunderstanding that can lead to other things that might not be so good because we don't understand each other. This person has a worldview. Their worldview is formed by their experiences, their culture, their beliefs, their religions, and so forth. Right. Okay? If we're going to interact with the public, we need to do better to understand how people see the world. You know, when we have all these outcries right now of police reform, things of that nature, it's because people's worldview has changed. Mm-hmm. Culture has shifted, and we haven't shifted with the culture. And I think it's very important that we make that shift. Otherwise, we're going to lose grip.
Right. So Kane County lacks in that cultural awareness.
Not just Kane County, but many other places. But yes, okay. Kane County does. Okay. Kane County does. I believe it does. I believe we can do better. And when we say lacking, I'm not saying that they're not doing a good job. I'm saying that we can do a better job. Okay. You know, and I would like to be. I can bring that to the table through better training, connecting. I'll tell you what. We can't police our way out of crime. Okay. You know what our biggest weapon against crime is? What? Our biggest weapon against crime is not the biggest gun. It is cooperation. Mm-hmm. Cooperation between the people and the police and other agencies, okay? If we don't have cooperation, we're not going to solve anything. I don't care how good of a policeman or detective you are.
Right. The next thing is community policing that works. This kind of piggybacks on what we've just been talking about, yeah. But also, you know, creating safer neighborhoods through trust and engagement. The neighborhood portion. Do you take part and have you taken part in some of the community activities, the different fairs and things like that, you know, prior to your run, and what has that been like?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. If I wasn't involved with the community through our department's outreach programs that we had mm-hmm. in Cook County, I was doing it through my church. Very involved in my faith. Okay. Very involved in, I speak to groups of kids all in churches and organizations, all over. I've traveled all over speaking to groups. We can get into that another time. It's about empowering people, lifting people up.
Right.
So, yes, to answer your question, yes.
Okay. Supporting mental health. Lou understands the mental health, the mental toll of police work and the impact of untreated mental illness in our communities. He'll prioritize officer wellness programs and increase partnerships with mental health professionals and support those in crisis. So, as it stands right now, scale of 1 to 10, 1 being deplorable, 10 being awesome, how would you rate the access and availability of resources for not only Kane County officers and law enforcement, but the law enforcement community as a whole?
I'll be generous and say I give it about a 5 right now.
Okay.
I think we could do better, much
Okay.
better, especially in the mental health realm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, my next question about that is, what has been the bigger obstacle? Has it been perhaps the culture in law enforcement, where asking for help maybe sometimes is frowned upon? Or has it been the organizations not reaching out, that connection's not being made? Which of the two would you think is the stronger reason?
Are you're referring to officers' mental health or
Yes.
the general public?
No, officers.
Yeah, officers?
Officers, yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, we are a culture. If we, you could say it all day long that we're not. We are a culture. People say it. Oh, you guys all stick together, and we should. We should stick together.
Sure.
But within this culture, we have this unwritten. I don't know what do you want to call it. That asking for help is a sign of weakness, especially because we want to portray this authority, power position. We can't power our way out of this.
Right.
We're people.
Right.
Okay, we're people, man.
Right.
And there's too much of an officer suicide going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's too much officers abusing alcohol going on. They don't abuse drugs because you get tested for drugs. So they're
Right.
like, okay, they're smart enough to stay away from that. But I've always said, instead of looking for an escape, let's look for an outlet.
Right.
If we have an outlet, then we can mitigate that volcano that's ready to explode inside of us.
Right.
Because of what? Because of that little radio.
Right.
Right? You listen to this radio for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and now you're a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
So we can do better, but we need to encourage officers to feel safe when asking for help. That's the problem, because they're afraid that if they have a drinking problem, I'm afraid of losing my job or getting disciplined or something to that effect. We need to create a safe environment for them, contingent upon or within the context of their world, their culture.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, it does. It totally makes sense. Yeah.
And if we create that environment, what we're doing now is working, but it's not working. We can always do better.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I mean. It's a two-pronged approach: the internal for the officers and external for the communities. When we talk about mental health, that's huge.
Right.
Huge. And I
Right.
can't stress it enough.
Yeah, as I talked about the board that I'm happy to take part in, the Kane County Gun Violence Prevention Council. Be Smart Gun Safety is part of it. A lot of others. Kane County Health Department leads it. We've got the relationship with the sergeant and his team who come there.
Yeah.
But it's like, short of that, we're always, as the public, we're always looking at what the police, 988, support officers for the Special Olympics.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
So it does seem like that consistent, ongoing support, resource availability is lacking. And I've always wondered, which of the two is it? Because on the outside looking in, it does appear to be culture, but now it seems like there are more mental health options available. And I'd like to know if they're making their way to the officers when they need them.
I think that there's an element of that we will address, that to make them more visible,
right,
more tangible, and creating that safe environment for officers to feel
Right.
comfortable enough to say, "Hey, I need some help, man,"
Right.
and feel like you're not being judged.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
It's instilled in us to be leaders,
Mm-hmm.
to not show that weakness.
Right.
You know, we feel that we are, so to speak, we're the supermen, the superheroes, and we are.
Right.
But we also have to remember again that we are just people. We're human.
Even Clark Kent took it off and went sat at a
Yes,
desk
he
for
did.
it, you know.
Yes, he did. That's right.
9:21 is the time if you're just joining us. The last thing is fighting crime with modern strategy. Well, not the last thing, but next thing is fighting crime with modern strategies. With a proven record of investigating serious crimes, Lou will bring modern tools, intelligence sharing, and interagency collaboration to the forefront of Kane County's crime fighting efforts. What's not happening now that should be happening?
Cooperation.
Okay. Now, when you say cooperation, again, I'm not a member of the law enforcement community, but it appears like there's cooperation. I mean, we see a lot of the police departments working together. I know there was a kerfuffle with APD in Kane County, but the core, the men and women doing the work and jobs, seems like that relationship was not frayed at all.
Right.
Okay.
Because the boots on the ground understand the importance of working together interjurisdictional wise too. But when I say cooperation, I'm talking about a communication process that is constant. It's not just when something happens we talk to each other. It is a constant communication. I mean, what if you talk to your wife only once a month? What's going to happen? You know, the relationship's going to deteriorate, or you're only going to talk when something needs to be done or fixed or whatever. You know what I mean? I think that we can do better as far as jurisdictional cooperation, departmental cooperation, information sharing, and also giving the community a seat at the table. You know, I think the community should know more and be more connected with us in the sense that they are our eyes and ears. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you're a police officer and you're patrolling your beat and you don't talk to anyone, you just drive around, say hello, and you answer your 911 calls, write a ticket here or there. Well, that's another subject matter to be discussed. And you're not making communication, personal communication. If you don't know people's names on your beat, that's the importance of establishing roots when you are working, as a police officer. When officers typically like working their beat because they know it.
Right.
They know the people. Mm-hmm. They know who. You're
Oh
chuckling.
no, yeah.
They know the players.
Absolutely, yeah.
They know the players.
Yeah.
That's
intelligence.
I know who. Yeah. Intelligence sharing.
That's intelligent. Right.
The old lady who sits at the window, the 90-year-old lady who sits at the window watching every day what's going on in the street.
Absolutely.
Right. She's valuable, bro.
That's absolutely.
You know what I mean? And if you're not making a conscious, deliberate effort to connect with these people, when something bad happens, you're gonna be out there spinning your wheels.
Exactly. Or going about it the wrong way, working too hard.
Yes.
To get what you need.
So when I talk about we're not reinventing the wheel.
Right.
We're just making it spin again.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about. Now, our officers, they know how to fight crime.
Right.
They know how to lock someone up. They know how to process somebody. They know how that works. We're not here to teach them how to do that.
Right.
We're here to enhance the areas that we've been lacking in, that we've been overlooking over the years.
Yeah.
And who's crying out? The people.
Right.
When you go to a restaurant, what makes you go back?
The food.
Right.
Well, the service. The whole thing. The
Yes.
whole package. The service, the food.
That restaurant has created value. And who determined the value? You did.
Right.
I can't tell the people the value of the work I'm doing. They got to tell me the value of the work I'm doing. So we have to bring that value back.
Absolutely. 9:24 is time. So the last question is, now we're going to talk about the different things going on, human trafficking, gangs, and fighting those crimes. Now, the website states that, creating safer neighborhoods, destroying human trafficking, those units are currently existing in the Kane County atmosphere.
Yes.
Could they be doing better? What do you think about the job they're doing? And it seems like crime has been going down steadily. There's less of
Yes.
what there used to be, those
Yes.
big pockets of crime.
Yes.
Or am I wrong?
No. I believe that we are exposing them
Okay.
much more now than before. And I think that technology and social media has been, it's a blessing and a curse in other ways, but that has been a blessing in these areas. I spent 5 years in a unit called child exploitation. We worked together with the FBI's Innocent Images Task Force, and our job was a proactive unit. Most police work is reactive, right? This was a very proactive unit where we identified, and the FBI would intercept files coming from different parts of the country and the world containing questionable material, if you know what I mean. And what we did is that we identified IP addresses, and we've identified houses where this stuff was being moved around. And in the process of doing that, we were able to locate kids being trafficked. I remember one specific case in the city of Chicago. We were led there by, again, one of these tips, and we ended up locking up a guy who had a girl holding her hostage. She was like 14 years old, and she was being trafficked and prostituted. You know what I mean? So that's an example of what's going on, and I know that law enforcement agencies are doing that right now. And I think that we will always look for ways to improve it, to enhance it, and make it better. But yes, I think that we are exposing this, and we're doing better.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, 9:27 is the time. With the last little bit of moments that we have, what's your closing words or pitch to the people of Kane County?
Yeah. My words to the people of Kane County is, when the time comes, 2026, you're going to make this choice. You're going to make this decision as not only who your next sheriff is going to be, but there's going to be many other offices. And I'll speak for this race. When you decide who you're going to vote for, I would encourage you to do your homework. Look at every candidate and look at what they've done. Don't look how pretty they are. Look at what they've done. Look at their background, their experience, what they bring to the table. And what are they going to do that is different? Are they listening to the social outcry for police reform, for changes that will make them feel like they are valued again? Again, we're not going to teach people how to be the police. They already know. The Kane County Sheriff's deputies know their job, and they do it well. These are other areas that we are going to reach based on experience, based on cultural connections and interactions, based on what worked for me and what I believe will work here. It is about connecting with people in the right way. Okay. And look at the person with the experience to back it up. And I'm that guy. I'm your guy. Lou is for you.
Oh, I like that. You had that ready.
It's been ready.
All right. Well, thank you, Lou.
Thank you
for coming on to the show.
Thank you
really
for having
appreciate
me.
It.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was Lou Santoyo, candidate for Kane County Sheriff. And as he mentioned, your voice will definitely be necessary, and we want it to be heard in the next election. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of the day, a very blessed Monday, and a prosperous week. Many great things are happening. And Good Morning Aurora will return with more news and the very best of Aurora very soon. Right now, stay tuned for Buenos Dias, Aurora. And the guest this morning is musical artist and singer Jose Carlos Diaz. Be blessed. Take care of yourself and each other.
Feeling bullied by your bank?
Hey, I got a random overdraft fee.
You've reached our main menu. If you're disputing an overdraft fee, please press 4. Or just hang up and call back tomorrow.
Are you pretending to be a robot?
Goodbye.
Stop banking the same way, expecting different results, and start banking where you matter. Wintrust. Different approach, better results.
YEP gives me a lot of hope for the future, not just here locally, but as those kids go out into the world and they share their perspectives and their passions, it's going to be infectious. It's going to spread. So they're just an amazing organization. that sets their partners and this community up for success. The future of this community, and honestly the country and the world, is bright with the kids that are on that YAP program, because they're going to save the world. They're doing incredible work, and to just get to know them and learn about their passions was a very fulfilling experience for me. Without the Community Foundation, it would be much more difficult for Hesed House and so many other organizations here locally to enact our mission on a daily basis.